It's time for Recipe of the Day. I have been waiting to tell you about today's recipe forever, it feels like. It is the Cowboy Butter that I've been raving about. So, if you do not know what this is, it may or may not have been invented by a Southern-style restaurant in New York City. Not entirely clear. It is basically a spicy, citrusy, herby butter mixture, kind of like a fancy compound butter that is amazing on steak, chicken, baked beans, and cornbread. You know, those foods that cowboys might have eaten while sitting around the fire after a busy day of cowboying. Anyways, that is a suspicion about how the name came about. When you taste it, you will totally know what I mean. It's just such a nice balance of all those flavors with that little bit of heat, and it's also like chunky. There's just like a lot of things going on in it, and I tried as much as possible to use whole or bigger ingredients in everything. So for instance, like if it calls for mustard, I've used like a grainy, coarse Dijon. If it calls for black pepper, I'm using coarse black pepper, right? So you just want to have all those bits and pieces in it. And that means that if you kind of like turn it into a little log and refrigerate it like you can do with a compound butter, and then you want to slice it, it kind of crumbles a little bit because there's so much stuff going on in there, but that's okay. You can crumble it onto your steaks while they're resting and it melts in and is delicious, or you can keep it at room temperature and spread it on bread, or you can melt it and serve it as a dipping sauce. That is what people do with it most often. Melt it, serve it as a dipping sauce to have with like steak bites, meatballs, any kind of meaty food. It's great drizzled on chicken. It's amazing drizzled on hot cooked rice. You are going to be as obsessed with this as I am, I promise. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you how to make this, but it's mostly just a long list of ingredients that you mash together, but I'm going to tell you what they are. The most important thing is that you're starting with some butter and it has to be softened. You really want that at room temperature. If your butter's still cold and you want to proceed anyways, just pop it in the microwave using the defrost setting or power level 50% for like 20 seconds at a time. Give it a stir until it's soft enough that you can easily mash it with a fork. The other thing people sometimes do, although I don't think it's necessary here, but if you want to try it, you can try it. Get out your cheese grater and grate your cold butter on the cheese grater, and that just makes it in such small pieces that then it softens very quickly and is very easy to mash up, so you could do that. I would say that if you're planning to serve this as a melted dip, you could just go ahead and melt it fully, except I do think this benefits from all sitting together for a while. Like, it's great if you can make it a day in advance or at least an hour in advance, and then just let it all sit together cold in the fridge, and those flavors are going to blend and meld, and it's really, really incredible. So I don't necessarily recommend that you melt it and mix it all together unless you're going to have it sitting on the counter melted for like an hour and then maybe remelt it or rewarm it later. That would be fine. Okay, but let's assume that you have softened butter. You want a half cup of unsalted softened butter. We're going to be adding salt to it. If your butter is salted, skip the salt that I'm going to tell you about in a bit, and then you can taste it and add a little bit if you need, okay? So to your unsalted softened butter, you're adding 2 cloves of minced garlic, a tablespoon of minced red onion. Oh, and I'm going to say here too that when choosing these ingredients, wherever possible, I've chosen things with some color to them because I do think that the appearance of the cowboy butter is really nice too, all those colors. So this is calling for red onion because you get that nice purpley color from that. But if you just have regular onion, use regular onion, that's fine. The reason I've chosen the red is more for the color than the flavor. Okay, so it was 2 cloves of minced garlic, a tablespoon of minced red onion, a tablespoon of coarse Dijon mustard, a tablespoon of chopped fresh parsley, a tablespoon of chopped fresh chives, 2 teaspoons of lemon zest. See how many colors are already going on here? There's some of that lemon zest. It's yellow. The butter is kind of like a creamy yellow. And then you have the parsley and the chives for some green, more like clumps of brown and yellow from the Dijon, the purple from the red onion, a little bit of white from the garlic. So much color, right? Okay, then you're also adding 2 teaspoons of chopped fresh thyme leaves, a teaspoon of horseradish. See, there's a little heat there. Half a teaspoon of lemon juice, half a teaspoon of paprika. I just used the regular paprika. You can use smoked. It's going to be delicious there as well. Okay, and then the half teaspoon of salt. But remember, if you used salted butter, maybe just put like an eighth of a teaspoon, and then when you're all done, give it a taste and see if it needs more salt. A quarter teaspoon of that coarse black pepper, a quarter teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes, and an eighth of a teaspoon of cayenne. Okay, so that's the full ingredient list. And do you see what I'm saying? There's all those like bright, fresh herb flavors, a warm like roundness from mustard, some heat from garlic and red onion, another kind of heat from horseradish, another kind of heat from the crushed red pepper flakes and the cayenne, lemon juice and lemon zest mellows it all out. And of course the creamy butter mellows it out. It is amazing. Such a wonderful balance of flavors. I know you're going to love it. So you mash all that up with a fork until well blended, and then I like to get out a sheet of plastic wrap and kind of pile the butter onto there, form it into a log, and then wrap it up in the plastic wrap, and like I said, put it in the fridge for at least an hour. Then after that, you can slice it cold, or you can bring it to room temperature to spread, or you can melt it to use as a dip. I will put the link to this recipe in the show notes for this podcast episode, or you can head to cookthestory.com/ROTD and get it there, or find it in our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/recipeotd. And hey, just a quick note. I'm on a recording hiatus right now, so for the next little while, I'm replaying episodes from the archives, including this one. If you heard me mention a holiday, a season, or something going on in my life that seemed a bit off, that's why. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you're enjoying these older episodes. I am Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, cookfor2.us, and from this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great day. Let's get cooking.